who are not even conceived of as having the capacity to have a body. Okay? So, I'll explain what I mean. Have any people in here read Beloved? Yeah. Oh. So, remember Baby Suggs out in the woods between page 87 and 89? I just know that because I was looking it up last night. Remember that whole speech she gives, her sermon? And what's the theme of that sermon? Here, I'll read it to you, because it's connected to this question. And then we'll get back to the whole body thing. It started that way. Laughing children, dancing men, crying women, and then it got mixed up. Women stopped crying and danced. Men sat down and cried. Children danced, women laughed. Children cried until exhausted and riven. All and each lay about the clearing damp and gasping for breath. In the silence that followed, Baby Suggs, holy, offered up to them her great big heart. She did not tell them to clean up their lives or to go and sin no more. She did not tell them that they are the blessed of the earth, its inheriting meek or its glory-bound pure. She told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine. That if they could not see it, they would not have it. Here, she said, in this here place, we flesh. Flesh that weeps, laughs. Flesh that dances on bare feet in grass. Love it. Love it hard. Yonder they do not love your flesh. They despise it. They don't love your eyes. They just as soon pick them out. No more do they love the skin on your back. Yonder they flay it. And oh my people, they do not love your hands. Those they only use, tie, bind, chop off, and leave empty. Love your hands. Love them. Raise them up and kiss them. Touch others with them. Pat them together. Stroke them on your face, because they don't love that either. You got to love it. You. And no, they ain't in love with your mouth. Yonder, out there, they will see it broken and break it again. What you say out of it, they will not heed. What you scream from it, they do not hear. What you put into it to nourish your body, they will snatch away and give you leavings instead. No, they don't love your mouth. You got to love it. This is flesh I'm talking about here. Flesh that needs to be loved. Yeah, she. Okay. So basically, Beloved was published in 1987. And there was this other great, in its own way, as great a piece of writing and thinking as Beloved was, published in 1987 by a great literary critic named Moten, who teaches at Vanderbilt University now. And her piece is called Mama's Baby, Papa's Maybe, an American Grammar Book. And kind of as I don't know if it's a coincidence, somebody should interview him and ask him, but she talks about flesh too. And one of the things that she says is that part of what helps us to understand the regime of chattel slavery in the United States is that what it reduced black persons to flesh. It skips the step of what we would call a body. Now, how does this work? And this is the question. So you've heard, maybe you've read some this week already, Immanuel Kant. So, the foundation of modern European philosophy. The great book of modern European philosophy is Critique of Pure Reason, which begins with an analysis of something that Kant calls the transcendental aesthetic. You know what it is? It's simply what, I don't know what, 200 years later, not that far, 150 years later, Einstein calls, or 120 years later, space-time. What Kant is basically saying is that in order to have an experience, you've already given sense or understanding of space and time. If you don't have a sense of space and time, you can't have an experience, because experience depends upon that prior formulation. And he calls it transcendental because there's no way to posit it based on the experience. It's the condition of possibility of experience. So, one way to think about the racial divide, and in this I'm following behind the work of two great thinkers, one of whom is still alive, who teaches at University of California, Irvine. His name is Frank Wilderson. The other, you know?
Yeah, it's so dope.
And the other one is, I think, Wilderson's primary inspiration, Frantz Fanon.
Yeah.
No, that's Paulo Freire. But think about one of the things that Fanon says about the way in which racism works, and he's thinking about the colonial regime that he was brought up in Martinique, is that because of what he called a process that he calls epidermalization, right, which essentially is a situation in which the black man is seen as nothing other than a kind of extension of his skin. And that skin tells the tale for whatever it is that this person can be, but also, even more importantly, for what it is that this person cannot be. And one of the things that Fanon says is that the experience of living under the regime of epidermalization creates this condition whereby he says you lose what he calls your bodily schema. The way Wilderson talks about it is that there's this sort of weird way in which you are not able to be a contemporary, okay, in the larger world. And literally what he means is you can't be there at the same place at the same time with people who have a certain set of experiences which actually allow them to posit the sureness of their own bodies. If all I am is reducible to my skin, so that my skin, which therefore means that my skin becomes some sort of symbolic order, so that when you see me, you don't see me, you see the, let us just be frank, as frank would be. You don't see me, you see somebody who's going to knock you in the head. You understand? You're not seeing me, you're seeing somebody who's getting ready to rape your daughter. Okay? You don't see me, you see somebody who doesn't want to work and who's going to take some more money out of your pocket by way of the taxes and stuff. You understand? Y'all, you see? Okay. You don't see a kid walking down the street with a hoodie, eating some Skittles. You see potential danger and death. You understand?
So you don't see the body, you see the flesh?
You see the skin. Okay. So what this means is that not only have you divested the person of anything that we can talk about under the rubric of the spiritual, a soul or a self, you don't even at that point give them a body. They're just some black skin. A big one like me would be scary. On the other hand, my son, Julian, who's 5, he'd be scary too. You understand?
So it's just a connotation that comes with the skin that you see, not necessarily the skin that you're seeing.
Go ahead, say it one more time.
Is it just a connotation of the skin that you're seeing, or is it not necessarily?
That's exactly right. In other words, the skin becomes symbolic. Okay. So that when he talks about epidermalization, it's not about the particular quality of the skin. It's what that skin means. Okay? And what it means is dangerous, all those things. So again, it's this double sort of formulation, right? It's sort of double then. Not only have you been divested of soul, but you've even been divested of body. Okay? And what you are is reducible to a set of operations at the level of the symbolic. What it is that you might do, what it is that things like you might do, or on the other hand, what it is that things like you are worth. Okay? So So you see what I'm trying to get at? This is the condition, and again, Fanon talks about it as being robbed of a bodily schema. When no one else in the world that you are dealing with acknowledges the fact and the presence of your body. His point is, it becomes increasingly difficult to be sure that you have one. Which makes it all the more remarkable and deep and important that Baby Suggs is out there in the woods talking about love your flesh. Which Hortense Spiller talks about as the 0 degree of value of the body. So, you see what I'm trying to get at? This whole, now, I got a whole bunch of different quotes, which I'm not going to get into. It's probably almost time to stop. About flesh. About what it means to be. So you see, it's the same thing we're talking about with regards to the machines and the things in the objects, right? What I'm interested in, see, because here's the dilemma. I'm not just interested in reciting the sad, horrific story of people whose personhood and bodies and souls and spirits were reduced to flesh or to things or to objects or to commodities. It's not that I'm trying to say that that story shouldn't be told, but what I'm really kind of saying is that story can't be told. And if you tell it, you have to tell it in such an amazingly... To tell that story is to essentially be... is to take on the task of a fundamental disruption of the language within which that story is told. And y'all read Bessie Phillip, right? So you know exactly what I mean. Okay? But it's not, but there's more to it than telling that story, which can't be told. And again, that's what's beloved. This is a story that can't be, what? Passed on, shouldn't be passed on. Philip and Morrison are both deeply committed and invested to the telling of the story that can't be told. And I'm interested in some new story that hasn't been thought of yet.